You want your cannabis and you want it now. But let's be honest, the couch is comfortable and you're not leaving the house. Not to worry. Amuse has your back. They deliver high-quality cannabis products right to your front door. Think of them as a good friend with a great stash who's always available. From vape pens to flour, pre-rolls to beverages, topicals to edibles, they've got it. All without the dispensary hassle. Check them out at amuse.com and save $20 on us. That's right. Just use promo code PODCAST to get $20 off your first purchase. That's AMUSE.com. Promo code PODCAST.
Amazon is now hiring near you. We're looking for team members who know that delivering important packages is important work. Ready to work hard to make someone's every day? Ready for benefits and flexible shifts? Immediate hourly roles are available at amazon.com/apply. That's amazon.com/apply. Amazon is an equal opportunity employer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 145. Hey, what's going on, everybody? So I just got finished with a pretty long day. First stop was Zorro Ranch. Second stop, Santa Fe Institute. Third, sit down with a source. Had a little bit of a break. Sat down with another source. And we just got finished about 20 minutes ago or so. So what I'm going to talk to you folks about tonight before we jump into an article, I wasn't going to do an article, but this is an important one. I think we should read it tonight. I wanted to talk to you about my trip out to Zorro Ranch a little bit and give you a little bit of detail on what occurred, basically a play-by-play. So when I was driving out there, I couldn't help but notice how empty everything is, how vast it is. And if I wasn't from Las Vegas and from the desert myself, I would have been blown away by the seclusion around this place. Now, there's other ranches, of course, but each one of these ranches is a sprawling complex. And the way Epstein's ranch is nestled, he has the protection of the 1,500 acres of government land that was leased out to him, as well as on the other side, it looked like some sort of, I don't know, some kind of like communications tower or something like that, but there was nothing there, right? It wasn't developed. There was some construction people there now looking like it was about to be developed. But my question is, why did they wait until Epstein was dead to get developing on it? You know, what it looks like to me, from what I saw today, what I witnessed firsthand, and, it looks like to me that it was very specific that this piece of land was chosen. And it was very specific the way this piece of land was built upon and developed, because it is so secluded. This would be the perfect place if you were some transhumanist weirdo and you wanted to populate the world with your seed. This would be the perfect place to do it. And isn't it funny that a mere, 45 miles or so away is the Santa Fe Institute, which just so happens to house and talk about transhumanism and the exact things that Jeffrey Epstein was into. And isn't it also funny that Jeffrey Epstein donated $275,000 to the Santa Fe Institute, and they only donated $25,000 of that? Why did they keep that other $250,000? Well, according to them, it's because it was donated before they quote-unquote knew what Jeffrey Epstein was. And we know that's BS. Now, I already established even people, regular people here in the town of Santa Fe, knew what Jeffrey Epstein was up to. The lady at my front desk who had worked at the hotel that I stayed at last night, she's worked there for 20 years, said that everybody knew what Jeffrey Epstein was up to, and everybody was sickened by it, but none of the politicians or the people that could have stopped it ever did. They all looked the other way. And all you have to do is look at the political contributions that Epstein made to the politicians here in Santa Fe and New Mexico on a broader scope, and you see it fits the pattern of exactly what he did in the Virgin Islands. Now, he wasn't able to do that so much in New York or Florida. I'm sure it's a little bit trickier to navigate in a city like New York or Florida. In a state like New York or Florida, there's a lot more spotlight, a lot more, a lot more focus on people like Epstein. He comes out to a place like New Mexico, and I can't even look, folks. The vastness of it is the thing that really stood out to me. If you've never been to the desert, you've never been to the Southwest, you would be blown away by how vast it is. It was absolutely insane to me to think of. I can't even imagine being a girl on that property and wanting to get away. There's no chance. There's no cell service. It was absolutely freezing too, like 10 degrees this morning. I mean, it was so cold and the wind was whipping, and I took some video and stuff, and I'll post some of that video in the next few days. I've already posted some stuff at Twitter. If you're not following me there, you can do that at BOBBY_CAPUCCI at Twitter. You can find me there, and I've posted some pictures and some updates of what's been going on my trip. But as I was driving to Zorro Ranch, and once I finally pulled up and I took a good look, you could see that there's some buildings at the end of the private driveway, and I walked all the way up to the gate, and there was a ton of cameras, and I didn't see anybody there. Like, I didn't see any workers there. I certainly didn't see any animals. For a large farm like that, you would think that there would be a ton of animals, right? Cows, etc., etc. I saw no animals. I saw no signs of humans working at the property. So I'm not really sure if operations have ceased, or if maybe they just weren't doing anything today. Maybe they're on a rotating schedule. I have no idea. I was there for about 35 or 40 minutes, and I took some pictures, and I took a little bit of a walk around, and I had to get a look at this place for myself, and I wasn't going to be satisfied until I walked at the very least up to that gate, and waved at the camera and seen if anybody was going to come out and challenge me or anything like that. But nope. I had a New Mexico state trooper cruise by me and give me a nice hard look, but he didn't stop. He didn't bother me. I mean, he probably has better things to do than some knucklehead on the side of the road with a camera around his neck, like he's engaged in a big year, like a bird viewing competition. That's probably what I look like. I mean, but it was a surreal experience to finally get out there. It was one of those things where you have high expectations, I guess you could say, and I certainly did, and those expectations were met. It was everything that we thought it would be. And one of the sources I talked to today worked at the airport, and that source said that they saw a lot of people that were picked up by the Epstein cars and out to the Epstein Ranch, etc., etc. So we're going to go into a little bit of that in the next couple of days once I can go through my notes, and like I told you last night, make sure that we get the story correct. I don't want to rush it here and just go off the top of my head with this stuff. I'm going to actually use notes to discuss what I talked about with these sources, unlike with these articles where I just go and I go freestyle on them. And like I also said, I'm going to write my own article about the experience from top to bottom, and I'm guessing I'm gonna put that out on like Medium or something like that, or maybe even go to the next level and create my own website. I'm not really sure yet, but all I can tell you is this: there is more to be uncovered here, and I really truly believe that a documentary needs to be done. I'm talking a fully polished documentary, not just one guy showing up down here with, a couple of cameras and, his phones like I did today and be in charge of everything. It's a lot. It's hard to do something like that on your own. So I'm definitely going to spin the tires on a documentary. I have access to a fantastic person who has already created a documentary, and I'm pretty sure I could get this person to get on board. Of course, the rub will always be the funding, right? So I'm going to try and kick some tires and see what I can come up with, but I really truly believe that a documentary needs to occur. Maybe even a a significantly long documentary, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hour type of thing that really goes into the weeds about what occurred here in New Mexico and how Jeffrey Epstein got all of this property, who he bought it from, who he was donating to. I know we went over all of that stuff, but I think there is after being here and talking to the people I've talked to, there's a much larger story here. And it's the kind of story where you really need resources to dig into, where you really need to set up shop and really go to town and cultivate some more sources, and get the proper footage and bring a drone. The whole entire production package needs to occur, and that's going to be my project that I'm going to start working on as soon as possible, because I feel like it definitely needs to happen, and this stuff, the public needs to know what was going on, and people need to be held responsible for their part in it, because nobody has been held responsible for what occurred here in New Mexico. And look, I'm not saying that this occurred, right? I don't have any proof of anything like this. This is pure speculation on my part. But if to say you wanted to get rid of people and have nobody ever find them again, these nameless girls, this would be the perfect place to do it. I mean, you know what they say about Las Vegas, right? Leaving Las Vegas on your way to California, that part of the 15 from, Vegas to Barstow, there's untold graves dug, meaning the mafia would clip people in the old days in Vegas, and so the bodies weren't found. They'd dump them and bury them out in the desert. And I'll tell you, if this would be the perfect place for something like that to occur as well. Again, please, I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm not ruling it out though either. I don't know. Honestly, at this point in time where we're at, folks, I'm almost more confused than ever after coming down here and speaking to the people I've spoken to and actually being on the ground at Zorro and at the Santa Fe Institute. It's just the layer upon layer of protection and enabling that was occurring is just, it's really blowing my mind. And I still, right, this is all very new. Like I said, I just got into my hotel room 20 minutes ago. I haven't even gotten changed yet or anything like that. It's so like, I don't even understand how it occurred. How in this country can this occur? And I'll tell you exactly how, in my opinion, how it can occur. Because the corruption is just so rampant from the top down. Everybody has looked the other way for so long that these people are so emboldened that they feel like they can get away with whatever they want, even trafficking young girls. And I'll tell you what, Marvin Minsky, the professor, there's a 100% chance that he was in Santa Fe. 100% chance. I've had that confirmed to me by a witness, by a source. So, he passed away in 2016, but he was like, they call him like the father of AI. And there's you start putting together all these creepy scientists that Jeffrey Epstein was a patron of, and you start looking at the stuff that, these people were into. And again, like I always say, if we look at them separately, we're like, so what? That's what scientists do. But when you put them all together and you see that Epstein was cultivating all of these people and being a patron to all of these people, and you start to connect the dots, the picture becomes very disturbing. And that's what I'm trying to do on a daily basis. I'm just trying to put the evidence together in the sort of manner where it all makes sense, because we get to certain places in this case and things don't make sense again, right? We think we have a handle on it and we think we know we have a good grip on what's going on, and then bam, a curveball, something out of the blue. We learn something new. We learn about somebody else who was associated with Epstein, or somebody like Nygaard, who was associated with Prince Andrew, who was obviously great friends with Epstein. So you have the 7 degrees of separation going on with all of these people. And like I said earlier about Nygaard, if we dig deeper, I'm sure we're going to find connections with Epstein. Now, I don't know what those connections will be. I don't have evidence to directly connect the two right now. Besides, there's some loose evidence out there about crisis management firms that they both shared, stuff like that. And of course, that's important. A bunch of loose evidence, you put it together and, well, you have a road eventually. So that's important work as well. But I don't have the evidence to tie those two together. Now, what I will say is this, that Nygaard should definitely have a deep dive done into him as well. And if I wasn't so ensconced in this case and I wasn't so busy, doing what I'm doing here on this podcast, I'd be diving into that as well. And if you want to take a listen and hear some good work going on about that case, you can listen to The Prince and the Perv. It's another podcast, and they cover Jeffrey Epstein, obviously, and you've heard me talk about them on the program before, the two gals from Australia. You check their podcast out. They have a new episode where they talk more about Nygaard. And that's something that they're definitely diving into, and that's good work that needs to be done. And eventually, if I can clear my plate, I'm going to dive in and I'll try and, do what I can do to dig some information up there as well. But for now, especially with everything that I've learned in the past 48 hours, I have plenty on my plate. And like I told you folks just a couple of minutes ago, I honestly believe I need a full-on production team with a full production package to do this story correctly. And I'm going to work towards that. I'm going to see what I can come up with, because I think that the story here in New Mexico goes a lot deeper than even I'm finding right now. And there was a lot of funky stuff going on at that ranch. There was a lot of funky stuff going on that ranch. And there are a lot of missing girls and, girls supposedly trafficked from the area that nobody knows anything about. So how do we know that these girls weren't swooped up by Epstein and then, shipped off to wherever? I mean, we don't even know. That's what I'm saying about New Mexico. At least in New York and Palm Beach and the Virgin Islands, there's kind of a picture has emerged, and there's sort of a roadmap, and we can follow it, and the prosecutors have raided the houses and, for whatever that's worth. But here in New Mexico, none of that's occurred. And when you look at the big picture, for me, the reason none of that's occurred is because there are too many skeletons in the closet with all of these high-profile politicians from the state. And there's a bunch of high-profile politicians from this state that Jeffrey Epstein was very buddy-buddy with. I mean, he bought the land from, one of the most prominent politicians in the state. So there's a lot more here, folks. I mean, a lot more here. And I don't know. I hope we can get to the bottom of it. I really hope that we can eventually get to the bottom of this, because there's a story here to be told, and I don't understand where the legacy media is. There should be 20 reporters outside of that Zorro Ranch. Some, independent content creator that completely is, self-funded for the most part shouldn't have to be doing this kind of legwork when you have these powerful media outlets that love to destroy people usually. All of a sudden, the most salacious case maybe in the last, at least, I don't know how long, but maybe ever, I guess, comes along, and all of a sudden nobody has any interest. Nobody has any interest to dig and do any of the hard work, cultivate sources, anything like that. Whatever. I mean, that's cool. I don't mind stepping into the void and filling that void and doing whatever I can do, my little small part. But I mean, it's embarrassing for them. It's absolutely embarrassing for the legacy media to keep getting scooped in this story by independent content creators. And it's happening by all the time. All the time at this point. It's because the legacy media just has no interest, because, in my opinion, it's going to expose a lot of their friends, and they can't have that. They can't lose the moral high ground. In their tribalism struggles, they can't lose the moral high ground. They have to keep it at all costs, even if those costs are justice for these survivors. And down here in New Mexico, Santa Fe was kind of a weird place, folks. Like, it's kind of like, I saw a few areas that were super, like, you could tell that they were super wealthy, but on like the main drag, I went and got some food, and I felt like I was almost in Las Vegas with all of the homeless people. Like, I saw like multiple young girls who were homeless, and it was, like I said, it was freezing cold. Like, if I was homeless, I really don't think I'd be choosing a place that's at like 8,000 feet in elevation to live. I think I'd be a migrating homeless person. Like, during the winters, I'd go in like winter in Vegas, and then when the summer came, I'd pack up my stuff and I'd hike to California. But I guess what I'm trying to say here is I had this like notion that Santa Fe was kind of like this yuppie kind of elite like haven, and it's really not. It's like a weird spot, like an artistic town for sure. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure that there are very affluent people in Santa Fe. I mean, my favorite author of all time, George R.R. Martin, lives there, so it can't be that bad of a place, right? But it just had a weird vibe. It just had like a weird vibe. I kind of felt like, remember in the beginning of Lost Boys when they first show up to I forget what the name of the city is in the movie, but when they show up to the city where their grandpa lives and they're like weirded out by it, that's kind of how I felt in Santa Fe. I felt like I was kind of out of place, right? It was just a weird feeling. And then to go into my hotel room and talk to to the front desk of my hotel and talk to that lady, and for her to have that information and her eyes light up like that, I was like, wow, what in the blazes have I gotten myself into down here? And so I talked to some more locals too. Like today I talked to some gas station attendants, and everybody had the same story. It was a who's who of who was parading into that Zorro Ranch. People were coming down, flying into the Santa Fe airport, or if it was some of the bigger planes, if he had the Lolita Express, they had to fly into Albuquerque, and then one of his many vehicles would pick up his guests, and off they would go. And we haven't heard nowhere near enough about any of this. So, I was going to read an article too tonight, but I think I'm going to skip the article, and we'll save that for the morning, and I'll do a morning update before I leave for the airport, or maybe even while I'm sitting in the airport. My flight's not till early morning tomorrow, but not too early, so I should have time to get a drop in, and that's my plan. I plan on doing a morning drop. And so, yeah, that's where we're at, folks. That's where we're at in Santa Fe. And again, to everybody who donated to the GoFundMe, you guys really helped out on this trip. Like I said, I do this stuff all, self-funded for the most part. And you guys supporting the show, it's awesome. It made this trip a lot less, made it, I guess it's more, we all participated, right? It's not just my trip, it's everybody who, donated to the show. And if you just donated to the show because you like the content, great. But if you donated because, you wanted to see what I found in Santa Fe, well, here we are. These podcasts in the next few days, it's going to lay it all on the line. Everything that I talked about with these sources is going to be laid on the line. I'm not going to redact anything. The sources are, a lot of them don't want to go on the record. Look, a lot of these people don't want to go on the record. They're scared to lose their current jobs. They're scared of repercussions. So I've given them aliases, and I left the door open with them at some point if they would like to go on the record to come on the podcast. And that's up to them. I'm not the kind of person who is going to pressure anybody in a situation like this. I understand the ramifications for people's lives when it comes to stuff like this. Not everybody just goes hard charging against people that have this kind of power, right? Not everybody sees a storm and walks into it. Well, I do. I'm that kind of person. I'm the kind of person that sees a storm coming over the mountain, and I gear up with all of my climbing gear, and I head out to the mountains, and I go on a nice trek. That's the kind of person I am. So I understand, though, why people don't want to get embroiled in this. I understand the ramifications it could have. I understand that they can lose their jobs and pensions in some cases. So I'm just grateful that these sources are willing to come forward and at the very least speak off of the record, because what it does is it confirms a lot of things that we've all known or that we've talked about here on the podcast, and it shows us that we're on the right path. And I think that's very important, to make sure that we're not just chasing ghosts, to make sure that we're not just, flipping over rocks that are unimportant in the case. And I try to do that here. I try to stay focused and laser locked in on what we talk about and keep that message in mind, because it's important to understand the corruption angle of this as well, right? We're all fired up about the survivors. We're all fired up about the way they're getting screwed. We're all fired up about the way that, this money is being messed around with. We're all fired up about that. There's no doubt. But I'm also fired up about the corruption and the way the government has went about conducting themselves in my name. It's the onus is on all of us to tell them that this is unacceptable, and it doesn't matter who was involved, but justice must occur. And I think that if we just keep pumping the same message out and we stay on target and we keep trying to inch that football another inch, another yard, another 5 yards up the field until we can punch it into the end zone, then, I think that if we do that, then we're going to see some more positive movement here. Look, I'm not a mind reader. I'm not Miss Cleo. I'm not the California Psychic Friends Network or anything like that. But I think that in the future, from where we started to where we're at now, I think in the future we're going to see even more movement. And I'm not here to make predictions about who it's going to be, who ends up holding the hot potato, but someone or someones are definitely going to end up holding the bag for this. And once that happens, once one of these important people, as far as this case goes, are snatched up, people that have an idea of what occurred, the Kellens, the Rosses, etc., the Maxwells, and they get the screws put to them and they get put to the question, well, they're going to start ratting. I mean, there's already a report that Nygaard's cooperating with the FBI already. How long did that take? Not long. These people that come from these pampered lives that are playing around like they're criminals, once they get caught, well, they're no longer criminals anymore. They become stool pigeons. And that is really what I think is going to occur in this case eventually. All right, folks. So look, tomorrow we'll get that morning update in. It has to do with a court ruling in regards to the Virginia Roberts and Ghislaine Maxwell situation in front of Judge Prescott. And it has to do with Julie K. Brown's argument from the Miami Herald. So we'll get on that tomorrow. I was going to read that article tonight, but I am absolutely wiped out, and I want to give it the attention it deserves. So I'm going to get some sleep, and then when I wake up, I'll do that article, hopefully before I catch my flight. But worst comes to worst, it'll be another afternoon drop instead of a morning drop, and then right back onto schedule. Bam, bam, bam. I planned on 3 today. I had no idea that I was going to get caught up so long. It was just one of those, time kind of got away with me. I was so wrapped up. My trip to Zorro there and back was a couple of hours, and then up to Santa Fe. And then right at that point, I was ready to meet with my source. And then I was like, wow, I wanted to get I wanted to get an episode, 3 episodes in today. But unfortunately, it's only 2. And then I tried to do an episode from Zorro, but the service was so terrible. My phone kept cutting in and out and in and out, so I just got frustrated with it and said to hell with it and walked the front perimeter there as much as I could, went around, took some pictures, kind of just, staked it out, hoping that I'd see some activity or that somebody would come down and, challenge me so I could, at the very least, question them. But unfortunately, that did not occur. So, anyway, folks, I hope that you're all having a fantastic Wednesday evening, and I will talk to you all in the morning. If you would like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. And if you enjoy my content and you like what we're doing here and you want to help the podcast out, you can click on the GoFundMe link inside of the description box. All right, everybody, I will talk to you tomorrow.
It's my daughter's having a sleepover with 5 of her friends, but I know just the place to go to get something for everybody and just a little something for myself too meal. There's a meal for every moment on the McDonald's $1, $2, $3 menu.
Mix and match old favorites and new classics like a McDouble, a McChicken, or a hot and spicy McChicken. Get any 2 for $3.50. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal. Single item at regular price.
Howard's new flagship showroom in Long Beach is now open with 22,500 square feet of design inspiration. Shop premier brands such as Thermador, Monogram, Jen Air, Fisher-Paykel, and many more. Experience live working products featuring the latest technology and innovations. Walk in or make an appointment with a product expert for a personalized shopping experience. This is appliance shopping as it was meant to be. Shop Howard's at Marina Pacifica in Long Beach or visit howards.com for more information.